All right, what's up, UU family? A great Muslim American theologian, somebody that's not often regarded as a theologian, a revolutionary, an activist, Al-Hajj Malik al-Shabazz, Brother Malcolm X, said that a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. As we stand on the land of the Yokuts people and acknowledge the labor of so many who built up our area, I want to thank you all for allowing me to be in your space. First of all, Reverend Tim for taking the day off so I could be here. I know you all miss him, and maybe as I keep speaking, you're going to miss him more. I have a lot of love for the Honorable Reverend Tim Kutzmark. Linda, you guys already see, you guys know she's organized, but she is really good at making sure other people know what they need to know, because for months she's been contacting me and saying, all right, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What are we going to do? So thank you, Linda. And to the entire Unitarian Universalist Church of Fresno, first of all, I feel like I'm not a stranger here. I know so many of you. I love to meet the rest who I have not been blessed and honored to meet, including those at home watching us. But just thank you for allowing me into your space, into your sacred space, into your holy space, into your sacred time to share with you. I come to you all from my own faith perspective. I'm Muslim, just in case you didn't know. Knowing that this is my path and it's not the path of all of us in this room. So I ask you, and I welcome your generosity, your grace, and your curiosity. I begin in my own tradition. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ahli bayti at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the name of God, in the name of all that you call upon, in the name of Kami-sama, of Dios, of Khoda, of Patron, how you call on God, I call upon this God to be with us. All praise is due to this God, the Lord and Creator of Sustainer of this world, and may all the peace, blessings, esteem, and salutations be upon all of His prophets and messengers, including Prophet Muhammad and his progeny. May the peace, blessings, and mercy of God be upon all of you. God tells us in the Holy Quran, chapter 4, verse 135, O you who believe, stand up firmly to establish justice. Witnesses for God, even if it's against your own selves or your family, whether one is rich or poor, for God is more worthy of both. Today we're going to be thinking together about courage, about moral courage, courage to face challenges, courage to rise up, as we were just so uplifted by Hannah and let's just call them the backup band for that. Sorry, Lawrence. The courage to stand up, the courage to rise, the courage to speak, the courage to challenge, to go toe-to-toe with all of the sicknesses and evils that permeate the society around us. I think about my faith, my call to stand. I'm commanded and set forth by my Creator to be empowered and decorated with bravery so that I can do the real work of trying to put everything into its proper order, the true definition of justice. In my tradition, in the Islamic theology, there's basically an idea that God created the heavens and the earth, and then He created us, and then He required all of us, you and me, to do two basic things according to my theology. Number one is justice, and the number two is justice. For us, the first justice is that God created us, so we need to be just with that relationship. And number two, that He's not the only thing He created. Created other humans and animals and rocks and plants and rivers and trees and mountains, and we have to be just with the rest of creation. We have to honor these relationships and understand them. A Muslim saint from 1400 years ago, Imam Ali, said that justice is life and its absence is the death of society. And indeed, I guess I should have asked for that water, but I'm just joking. Indeed, throughout the entire Quran, our holy book, it's riddled with verses commanding us to stand up for justice, to establish justice. The words for justice in Arabic, adl and qist, they're found throughout the Quran. And every single time, they're commandments for us as creations, as just one of the creations. When the Quran commands us to do justice, when it commands us to establish justice, when it commands us to stand against injustice, it's probably that justice is the most central theme in the Quran. Justice is probably the most central theme in the life of the Prophet Muhammad. Peace and blessings be upon him. And thank you, Lorenzo, for your rendition of this recitation, which, by the way, if you didn't know, he was singing peace and blessings upon the Prophet. So thank you for that. And it's probably the most central theme in my faith, period. One of the famous sayings of Prophet Muhammad, he said that if you see an injustice in the land, if you see a wrong in the land, then you have to stop it with your hands. And if you can't stop it with your hands, you have to speak out against it with your tongue. And if you can't speak out against it with your tongue, then he says to hate it in your heart. And then he tells people, but that's the lowest level of faith. I'm trying not to live in the lowest level of faith. I'm trying to excel and move up and live according to that teaching of stopping injustice with my hands and my voice, like I get to do so many times, arm in arm with Reverend Tim Kutzmark and so many others. I know also that Islam does not hold a monopoly on calling its adherents to justice. I'm not going to quote any UU scholars because I think everything they say is about justice, right? But we look at Judaism. In the wonderful tradition of Judaism, we see the famous, most oft-quoted verse that says, "Let justice well up like water and righteousness like an unfailing stream." God bless you. Thank you so much. That's in Amos 5 and 15 and 24. In the Sikh tradition, our Sikh brothers and sisters are told to be saint soldiers. People that are good, who honor their relationships and their family, and are willing to fight against any and every form of injustice. In Buddhism, we have so many traditions. One is a beautiful saying that said, we've placed our entire faith in truth and justice. In Christianity, in Mark 11 and 17, we know about Jesus when he decides and when he says that the temples have been turned into a den of thieves. And what does he do? He doesn't go, he flips tables. He goes to the tax collectors and he flips their tables to call out their injustice. And there are so many other examples in wonderful world traditions that exist. But for today, what is one of the main characteristics that we all must nurture to be able to stand up, to be able to rise up as they sung to us? What is that one characteristic that we all need to do that work? Courage. One has to build, sustain, and maintain some sense of courage, because it takes courage and a courageous spirit just to live in society as we do. According to Islamic theology also, courage is something that is within every human being, and we believe that there's nothing that you are asked to do, called to do, or commanded to do that is more than you can bear. The Quran in chapter 2, 286 says that God does not charge a soul except within its own capacity. God doesn't hold you over something that you can't bear. So whether that's need to be courageous in our personal lives or out in society, it's not more than we can do. It's something we tell our young people, right? It's something we tell our children. It's something we talk about and think about. And it's something that we need to work on and build every single day. And we need courage just to live our lives. Forget how hard it is to go to school any other day or any other year or any other era. But now it takes courage to go to school, and it takes courage to let your kids be at a school where they may become victims of bullying, violence, gun violence, and all the other evils that permeate in schools. It takes courage to seek medical treatment when you're ill. It takes courage to say, I have the strength to do that, and I'll make it out the other side. It takes courage to have hard conversations with our family and friends when they might hold a position that is detrimental to the very intrinsic humanity of every one of us. If we have a family member or a friend that hates somebody because of something that they can't control, then it's hard. It takes courage to have that conversation with them. You guys, it's coming up on Thanksgiving. You're going to have a lot of those conversations. It takes courage to go to work. Not just because it's hard, not just because you have to compromise. It takes courage to go out into the world to struggle to make a living for your family when there are so many things working against you. It takes courage to raise kids, doesn't it? It takes courage to send them out into the world. I have 2 adult sons. It takes courage to care for an ill or an aging member of our family or friends. It's hard. It takes courage to deal with their passing and their transition. And on a societal scale, we need to muster that same courage to call out injustice. And I know that I'm not teaching anything to the members of this church, for you guys have stood for so many fights in our city. You guys may have heard of the Arabic word jihad. You guys heard the word jihad? Most likely you heard it for all the wrong reasons. All right? But the word jihad is a beautiful word. It's an amazing word. It's a powerful word. One of my good friends is named Jihad, a beautiful name. The word jihad means to struggle or to strive against your own desires, against whatever might keep you from doing good. And in the Islamic theology, jihad is to struggle for God, i.e. to stand up for justice, i.e. to stand up against oppression and tyranny. Excuse me. One day, the Prophet Muhammad was asked, what was the most greatest, the most honorable, the most noble of struggles, of jihad? And he said the most noble or the greatest jihad is a just word to an unjust king. In this nation, and particularly, this might be our greatest task, to be uncomfortable but empowered by courage to scream for justice against systems, powers, institutions, politicians, and leaders who work to oppress our people. We live in times and a place of great tribulation, and you all know that. We live in a country, particularly, and a city that is littered with and poisoned by evils and injustices in so many flavors and expressions. White supremacy runs rampant in our streets. In these days leading up to the midterm, slavery is on the ballot in some states. The year 2022. They're still thinking whether or not they should outlaw slavery. White supremacy runs wild in all of its manifestations. Anti-black racism, xenophobia, and hating folks that might be different than us. The mega politicians around the country. Anti-Semitism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and so many other wicked expressions of that same evil. They exist, and we live in this world. It takes courage just to exist. And indeed, courage is displayed precisely when we rise up against what's comfortable, the prevailing view in our society, and lean into uncomfortability for the sake of all of our sisters and brothers in creation. I pray that each of us, myself first, I don't guide or direct anybody before myself, and all of us, be imbued with unwavering, powerful, bold courage. I pray because I believe that prayer or calling upon God is one of the most powerful and sure weapons that any one of us has in this fight against injustice. I believe that the tears of those who struggle are weapons. I believe that the cries and the screams and the words are weapons that we shove into the heart of oppression and systems of injustice to call them to do what is right. Because I pray for all of us courage to speak truth to power, courage to establish justice, courage to call out injustice. I again remind you after I remind myself of the beautiful words of that great theologian, Al-Hajj Malik el-Shabazz, Brother Malcolm, who said, a man who stands for nothing will fall for anything. Are you willing to fall for something? Are you willing to fall for the okie-doke? Are you willing to fall for what they feed you as some reality that's not? It's not a reality that white supremacy has to exist. That's our reality. But we don't have to fall for it. We have the power and the courage, each and every one of us, to stand up and fight and move and have those conversations and do jihad in our families, in our society, and anywhere else that is required of us to stand up and to do what's right. Fresno, Church of Fresno, thank you for letting me be here. I honor all of you, and again, thank you for letting me into your space.